Hey y'all, welcome back to another video by Fiber Garage. Sorry it's been a little while since my last video, but we've just been a little busy with everything going on. But in today's video, we're going to show you how to replace a water pump on a V6 3.9 2003 Dodge Dakota. And the first thing we're going to do, or I should get back, I already took off the fan shroud and the fan. The fan shroud is just 2 bolts on the side, 10mm bolts, and then it comes off. You got to take these 2 connectors and your water line off, and then also the overflow. And then for your fan, what you'll do is you'll take either the correct size wrench or just a really big crescent wrench, and then you just whack it with a hammer to break it free, and then you have a lot more room here. So now that we got all that out of the way, what we'll do first is we will take the belt off. Your tensioner's over here. It's a 15mm bolt. You'll just put it on there and tighten. And as you see, it loosens the tension. You can take your belt off. If you don't remember when you go to put it back on, it'll show you where it goes between the 3.9, the 5.9, or the 4.7. Or you can take a picture or just remember. So what we'll do first is we'll take that off, and then we'll start to take all the bolts out on the water pump. If you can see them, there's one here, here, here. There's a couple underneath. There's one here, there's one here. And then we got to also take off the hoses, and then this line. So what we'll do in order is we'll take the belt off, we'll take off the hoses, and then we'll take all the bolts out, and then we'll just pull it out. So here we go. Alrighty, now as you can see, we got the water pump off. That top hose that's kind of trapped behind the accessory drive, it's easiest, like you saw me do. Once I got it unbolted, I just kind of yanked on it while opening up the clamp. It's kind of a booger to get to because everything's in the way. One trick when you are getting off any kind of hose, for the radiator hoses, is if you can twist it to break it free. That helps a lot. As you saw, or you may saw, there's one bolt. I'll show you right above the pulley. Right there. It's got a Torx on it. I don't have a Torx that size, but you can get it with a wrench. As far as getting it out, you're just gonna have to kind of jiggle it past right there. You just got to jiggle it past the pulley. But once you get it off, your next step is cleaning up your block for your gasket and everything, and then just doing the reverse process. The only other thing is, on this particular water pump, this hose right here, we're gonna have to get it off and put it on the new one because it doesn't come with one. If you want, you can buy this. I think it's one of the heater core hoses. You can buy this replacement tube. If we're lucky, we'll be able to pull it out and keep the O-ring, but if the O-ring's bad, then we're gonna have to get a different one. And just the same, like I said, the best way to get this off is just by twisting it. And it also probably would have been a better idea to keep it bolted in and then remove this, because it'll be nicely secured while you try to twist this. But we'll just try to see what we can do. Another trick that I have for whenever you got a whole bunch of bolts in something that they're all different lengths, as you saw me pulling these bolts out, some of them are really long, some of them are really short. What I do is just if you have the new part, as you pull them out, put them in on the new part where they go, so you won't be confused about what goes where. So as you see, just each bolt's in there just so you can keep track of it, especially while you clean up this. So all this right here where your gasket's gonna be mating to, you're gonna want to get that nice and clean so that it'll be a good sealing. Now your water pump will come with a paper gasket, but what I like to do is use some let me see if I can grab it. Just use some water pump gasket maker as well. You'll just kind of coat your gasket in it and stick it on there. It helps it stay in place, and also if there's any little tiny spots that are kind of not exactly perfect, it'll help mold into that spot to just have a better sealing. But yeah, so we're just going to clean this up. And when you are cleaning up these, you can just use a razor blade and it cleans them up pretty good. This is actually not that bad, but we're still going to want to go over it. And then while you're here, you can clean all that crud out. But yeah, so we'll get that hose off and then put onto the new one, and then clean this all up and then put it all back together. Alrighty. So next we're gonna, now that we got it all nice and cleaned and we got this tube out, now next what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the water pump back on, but we also need to put the gasket on. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put the water pump on, but not bolt it in. I'm gonna get this hose up here that's a pain in the butt, this one right here. We're gonna put that one in and get it on before we bolt any of this on. And so once we get that in, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our gasket maker, put it all over our gasket, and then put it on, and then bolt everything up. Now also, like I said, I got this hose off. If you can see, that's where the O-ring is. This is totally ruined. And what I should do is go get another O-ring. But I don't want to drive all the way back into town because then it's like a 40-minute round trip. So I'm going to do it the wrong way and just put gasket maker all the way around this and shove it in. Like I said, that's the wrong way. I don't recommend doing it that way. Your best bet, honestly, when you get your water pump, is to just get one of these new, and the O-ring should come with it. That way you don't even have to mess with trying to get it out of the old pump. You can just put it in with the new O-ring and be fine. But that's the way I'm going to do it. So if you do it this way, just be warned that there is a high chance that it could leak, but I'm going to just deal with it because this is my personal vehicle. So we're going to get that pump on, then we're going to put the gasket maker all over the gasket, and then we're going to put it all together. There's something I want to add real quick. I know we're further along than we are in the video, but when you are putting your gasket back on, you may not see me do in the time lapse. The way I'm doing it, because we can't, because it's kind of hard, you have to like slide it behind there. What I did is I take each bolt, and before I threaded any of them in, I made sure that each bolt went through the gasket completely, so that I knew it was completely flat, so we get a good seal whenever you press it up against there. Like I said, that's just one thing I wanted to add. Or also, I ended up, how I said I was going to put sealant on that hose, I ended up looking more in the box as I was cleaning up, and your water pump will come with a replacement O-ring. If I would have just looked more, than I would have seen it. But I ended up taking that hose back out and cleaning that RTV off and putting the O-ring on and putting it back in and making it right. So when you look in your box, make sure you look at everything. But anyway, back to everything else. Alrighty, so we got everything put back together. We got all the hoses and everything on. We got all the bolts tightened and the belt back on. A good rule of thumb when you're tightening the bolts, and this is for anything, not just this, if you don't know the torque spec, which I'm sure if you look, there's a torque spec for almost every bolt on your vehicle. But if you don't know, or you don't want to find out or whatever, you can just pretty much tighten it as tight as it was when you tried to loosen it, if that makes any sense. So you just put all the bolts back in and everything. And we got the belt back on, and it's just the same thing as taking it off. Now next we'll put the fan and the shroud back on, which that'll be the opposite of when you put it on and everything. And then the last thing you need to do before you're ready to go is, because it was leaking and you took everything off and dumped your coolant, what you are going to need to do is refill it back up with antifreeze and water. So what we'll do is we'll put it back together, and I'll just do this off camera. If y'all want me to do a video on how to bleed the coolant system, then just let me know. But basically all you do is you just start the truck up, you have the radiator cap off, and you fill it up with fluid until it comes to the top, and then you just let it run until it gets to running temperature. So if you look on your gauge, it should be in the middle. At that point, your thermostat will open up and the hot coolant will run through the motor and in back to the radiator. And at that point, you're going to be letting all the air out of your system, because if you have a big enough air bubble, it'll actually block the system and you'll overheat your engine, which is no good for anybody. So you'll just keep doing that until it keeps bubbling up and getting all the air out. And once it does, then you can just close the cap and then you're good to go. They do sell a funnel that has a little plunger in it that I do recommend to use. I don't have one, but they are really handy because you can just fill it up and it'll keep bubbling out of that. And then once you get to the point that you're all done, you just put that little plunger in there, and then you can take the whole funnel out. You don't make a mess. You can put it right back into your bottle and then just let it out, and it goes all into the bottle. You don't make a huge mess everywhere. But we're outside in the dirt, so it doesn't matter too much. And another thing to be wary is if you do lose coolant, like when you're doing this process, if you dump coolant on the ground and say you're in concrete or something, you do have animals around, just be careful, because obviously antifreeze is not good for anybody. So just be wary for that. But that's pretty much it. We'll wrap this up and be on the road again. If you like the video, drop a like. If there's anything I didn't cover or any questions you have, then leave a comment. If you like the channel, subscribe and check out our other videos. And we'll see y'all in the next one.